Hello and welcome back to the Masonic Roundtable, a weekly program where Masons from around the world get together to talk about Masonic news and opinions in a friendly and social manner. As a reminder, the thoughts and opinions expressed here are solely the opinions of the participants and do not represent any Grand Lodge statements or positions. Make sure you keep your conversations open for the public and on the level. To interact with us, we love seeing you live every Thursday night in Facebook and YouTube land. Chats are always fun, and remember, your chats may show up in the show. So watch yourself. And if you can't catch us live, catch us in the replay or in your favorite podcasting app. You know me, John Ruark, past master of the Patriot Lodge, number 1957 in Fairfax, Virginia. Next up, Joe Martinez. What's up?
Hello, and good evening. I must sound like Mrs. Doubtfire there. Hello, and good evening. Hello, Joe Martinez, past master of Manassas Lodge, number 182 in Manassas, Virginia. And as always, damn glad to be here.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Glad to see you.
Glad to see you.
Better to be seen
than viewed.
Brother Jason.
Hey everybody. Jason Richards, past master of Vacation Lodge number 16 in Clifton, Virginia. And, I'm glad to be here as well.
Glad to view you as well.
What the hell?
How did you get a hold of those pictures?
There was a picture of you when you were younger.
The dark web.
All pictures of you were when they were younger. All right. Next up.
I have a bone to pick with my mother.
Joe, what's going on in June timeframe?
Well, again, we are hosting, let's see, our 6th in 7 years, Esotericon. We're back in 2026.
We're back, baby.
We're back again. So let's see, June 20th, 2026, Father's Day weekend. So ladies and kids and other folks, get your dads a gift this year and get them a ticket to Esotericon or her or whoever. It's open to all. It's open to everybody, all seekers, all people interested. This year we've got a Rosicrucian theme. So we like to have themes when we do these things. So
the Rose illumines. Who wrote that?
Who wrote that? I don't know, but it's good. It's hot. So this year we've got, if you want to hit the speakers link, we've got Billy Hamilton from Texas. He's coming. And then as John navigates, we've got, as always, Emeritus Esotericon scholar, Jamie Paul Lamb. He'll be back again. And we've got Kevin Homan, one of our hosts. He's doing a thing or two. And then we've got the always beautiful Jason M. Richards, who's actually doing a practical workshop. So that should be really fun. And we've got the man who's not here yet, Robert Johnson. He's back again doing some stuff. And our keynote speaker for this year is Brother Ike Baker. So you probably know him from Arcanum, all those other things. And let's see what else. So that's it for speakers. We also are again having a brew night, as we always do the night before at Sinistral in Old Town, Manassas, little private event just for us. So yeah, you'll see more details and stuff. Last count, 65% of our in-person tickets have been sold out. So we've got some tickets left. We cap it so that we all have room to hang out and be esoteric and not be in each other's faces like on a Spirit Airlines flight. So you've got a couple of weeks to get those tickets, but once they are sold out, they are sold out. So yeah.
We want to free your spirit, not be like Spirit Airlines.
No, we don't. Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor. Definitely not a sponsor. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. And there might be some alchemy to talk about while we're there.
Indeed.
And as always, I want to give a special shout out to the patrons who support the show. You guys are amazing. You keep this
amazing
for many, many years to come, or 2040.
14 more years, baby. 14 more years of donations.
Woo.
Looking forward to it.
But, you know, I find myself, every time I have conversations with new brothers, I'm like, we did a TMR episode on that, and I'll go dig through the archives and go find and share that. So it's always good to think about all the stuff that we've covered over the past years. Thanks to the patrons who are awesome.
Indeed, yeah.
Who are super awesome. And you know what else is awesome, Joe?
Tell me.
You know what time it is.
Oh, I know.
Tarot card of the week.
Jazz hands and
really
spirit fingers.
starting to really grow on me. That's all. So
Good
in,
fungus.
3 years. Yeah. Starting to like it. What do we got, Jason?
Rose athlete's foot. So this week we have to have the Splendor Solis
Ooh, I have that one.
tarot deck.
Well,
Yeah.
why do we have to do that?
Because we are talking about one of the most beautiful and richly illustrated alchemical treatises in existence.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, if we're going to talk about the Splendor Solis alchemical text, we have to go with the Splendor Solis alchemical tarot. And we have, for tonight's show, the Knight of Pentacles.
That on the crescent moon. Look at that.
Yeah, I dig it. It's good for tonight. Methodical.
So this deck is interesting because as we'll get into in a little bit, the Splendor Solis consists of a text, but it also consists of 22 miniature plates.
Mhm.
And each of the plates roughly corresponds to the major arcana. So what they did is they had an artist come through and illustrate all of the minor arcana in the style of the Splendor Solis.
It's awesome.
It's very exciting.
Is it Page of Pentacles or
We
Knight?
have the
Of course, I was
we
going
have
to
the
say
Fool.
it has to be the Fool. That's beautiful.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
I like it. I'm going to have to add that to my wish list.
I have it.
Nice. Okay, well, great. Well, let's dive right into tonight's topic because we got a lot to cover. Let's talk about the Splendor Solis. Jason, why are you so interested in the Splendor Solis?
Yeah, so I'm a member of SRICF, and we get to write papers about really cool stuff. And I decided to do my next paper on alchemy. And I had picked up the Splendor Solis tarot without knowing what the Splendor Solis was. I was like, this is really cool, really great art. And so I did some digging and said, you know what, I'm going to do my alchemy paper on the Splendor Solis. And so the Splendor Solis is an illuminated alchemical manuscript that kind of took shape in the early 16th century. So, you know, this was getting put together and getting drawn, you know, with kind of contemporaries of Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa and the Renaissance. And so there's a big emphasis on science and astrology and, of course, Middle Ages alchemy from the standpoint of metallurgy, trying to turn base metals like lead and tin into gold, but then also spiritual transmutation as well. And so the Splendor Solis really just takes a lot of these different kind of thought pieces that were going on in Europe at this time and blends them together into this really, again, ornate, beautifully illustrated alchemical treatise. The earliest surviving version dates from between 1532 to 1535. It's actually housed at the Kupferstichner Kabinett Museum in Berlin. And the best known copy is the British Library's Harley manuscript 3469, which is dated to 1582. And so all of the images that we're looking at tonight are from the Harley manuscript. It's the most well-preserved and the most richly detailed of the Splendor Solis manuscripts that we have. There are over 20 manuscripts or manuscript editions that we still have today. So this is a text that would have been circulated widely around Europe during the Renaissance.
Well, one thing you highlighted, which I think a lot of people overlook when we're talking about the Renaissance. When we talk about the Renaissance, people think of Italy and, artists and stuff from that area, but Renaissance Germany was like a hotbed of science, birth of chemistry. You started to allude to that a little bit, and you actually got some of the most beautiful manuscripts and texts that came out of places like where the Splendor Solis came from. But like I said, you don't usually touch on Germany when you're learning about the Renaissance, right? You learn about the big artists and big things, a little bit of Da Vinci, but they don't really talk about Germany. Really.
Well, and you have a big kind of cadre of German artists as well. You have like Dürer and others who are painting during this time. And of course, Germany is where Rosicrucianism formed or kind of sprang into being around 1600. And so if you have this alchemical treatise and this kind of hotbed of, Renaissance science and philosophy, I think it makes a lot of sense that you start getting things like the, alchemical wedding of Christian Rosenkreuz and others kind of at the turn of the 17th century. So they even attributed the Splendor Solis to a legendary figure, the teacher of Paracelsus, Solomon Trismosin.
Actual or just for editorial purposes?
Editorial purposes. So
kind of like the New Testament.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not actually, but we'll put his name on it.
Yes. So the earliest manuscripts that we have do not actually list any authors whatsoever. It's it's not until 1612, and there's a French version there's a French version of 1612 that lists Solomon Trismosin as the author, and then the first English text version published in 1920 lists him as it again, and that's where it kind of enters into the public fray. For all intents and purposes, Solomon Trismosin was a figure that was made up by the Paracelsian cult to give a mystical lineage to Paracelsus. And so Paracelsus kind of was a bit of a hermit. And so, the people who followed him wanted to give him this ancient mystical wisdom lineage. So they invented this Solomon Trismosin to be his teacher. And so, right? It's like, let's just add a little sprinkle of legitimacy here. A little sprinkle of
you see that with here. Memphis Mizraim with the Orphic priest. You see that even with Christian Rosenkreuz.
Yeah.
So this is an old. It's I always think about it like these sort of things seem to have been concocted before people realized people could lie.
Okay.
Well, in a sense, right? Like, how'd you know? I saw it on the astral plane. Of course. Right. Like
look at it.
I mean, we see this all the time though with these characters, but I think that in the sense, I'm sorry, I'm jumping in right away, but
do it.
The sense here, looking at a character that may or may not have been, kind of loses the point. It's like when people go, Christian Rosenkreuz didn't exist, so Rosicrucianism's baloney.
Yeah,
It's like,
neither did Noah, most likely, but
right.
here we are.
It doesn't
Right.
it doesn't change the system that's there
Right.
that has people who follow it, who find value in it,
That's it.
changing their worlds.
That's it. All about archetypes too, which
That's
is
right.
really a big theme of this whole set of plates.
Well, I mean, you kind of hit it on the head there, right? Like to Robert's point, a lot of the use of these figures were more archetypal than copyright. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this dude did this, so he had to be a dude. No, it's like it's a concoction of ideas. You know, if we want to trace it to Masonry, we don't know who the hell wrote our ritual, right? We kind of attribute it to Desaguliers sometimes and all these other things, but nobody knows. But whatever figure we put in that place, it's a placeholder for an idea. And it, like I said, it wasn't like they had Amazon publishing and could call BS on it. It's like, oh no, you didn't write that, Solomon, you know, because nobody gave a crap. So
No, you just took everybody else's essays,
yes,
Yeah.
mushed them together, slap a
published
coat
them
on
as
it.
your own.
Yes.
Let's go see some pictures then. Let's dive in because I know we got a lot to cover today.
Let's go, Jason.
Yep. So, real quick, the Splendor Solis has an accompanying text, but primary focus is the 22 plates. We'll see these plates divided into 4 thematic sets. The plates 1 to 4 talk about or illuminate kind of the principles of what they call the great work. Plates 5 to 11 actually step through the alchemical process. Plates 12 to 18 go through the planetary sequence, or the sequence of the planets. And then plates 19 to 22 are about the final transmutation, going from, decay, putrefaction to pure gold. And so with that, we'll start with plate number 1, which is the Arma Artis, or the arms of the art. And so, right out the gate, we have this heraldic theme. You have dual suns right here. And so already you're seeing kind of a focus on gold and royalty. There's a little bit of 3 in 1 and 1 in 3 in homage to the 3 principles of the Tria Prima: sulfur, mercury, and salt. You see the 3 in 1 in this bottom sun here, because if you can look closely, let me see if I can. Oh, I cannot zoom that in anymore. Each eye and then the mouth are little suns, and so representing the Tria Prima.
One thing I did like about this one too is for the first card, as you showed, it was equated to the Fool, the beginning of the alchemical journey. It has the mentor and the mentee coming through the high archway, and
the teacher,
the
and
armor.
student.
Yeah, the armor theme comes up for a couple other plates too, of the ego protecting, because you can see the stable straight line sun above, and then kind of the curve bent, cockeyed sun below, that it's trying to conquer through this ego that's protecting the messiness that's inside.
Yeah, they describe it as like sort of an early depiction of the schizoid inner side of your brain, like that, the lower sun anyway, with the multiple faces. Talking about it in terms of multiplicity.
On id, ego, and superego, right?
Exactly. Yeah. In fact, a lot of the books and articles written about this specifically they say Jungian, but it's not Jungian if it's here, right? It's before, it's proto Jungian. So, but very interesting. Like, I love the way the plates progress. It's really cool.
The arms of the art. I like especially the symbolism here with the archway. And it's like the teacher and student have yet to pass through that archway. So this is kind of the preamble or the preface. Like they're getting ready to undergo that transformation.
Nice.
All right. Plate 2 is the alchemical philosopher. And so revolves really around this alchemist here. He's the alchemist, depicted in red and blue robes. He has a flask with, a transparent yellowish kind of luminescent liquid or elixir representing the philosopher's stone or the elixir of life, which is the desired outcome of the alchemical process. The motto up here in the smoke or the black ribbon is Eamus Quisitum Quasor Elementorum Naturas, which translates roughly into let us investigate the 4 elements of nature. Yeah, there you go, John.
It's wild though, because like with alchemical texts, I think it's such a stark difference or a juxtapose, you might say, from the typical type of imagery we may be used to in masonry. I mean, on this plate, you're seeing things and you might just be thinking of them as a mason looking at them going, oh, they're decorative, right? But the framed symbols are all allegorical. Is sort of like when, maybe in a time, in the earliest times of not organized, but religion, right? You had something like animism where the scene that reveals a deer or something meant something to you intrinsically, known to you, because it was said like, oh, well, when you see this, the gods are doing this, or those kinds of things. And so those elements, they adapt and evolve over time. And like here, the first time I looked at this manuscript I'm like, oh, so that's a neat decorative outframing with a butterfly, a peacock, bees, and the two deer. Like, I didn't think anything of it, but apparently, they all have meaning.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is I think this is where we start to get the sense that alchemy becomes the royal art, right? This is the start of the path. You have the hermetic philosophers starting that journey, right? And it goes all the way to that quote and everything around it. So,
well, it's interesting too. The text that accompanies this plate uses an allegory of a hen's egg, saying that the egg requires the 4 elements to hatch into a chick. So you have to apply this gentle heat to trigger the transmutation. And there is something in the text that basically talks about the parts of the egg between the shell, the white, and the yolk, being the various prima materia, and then the chick actually being the outcome of the process of alchemical transformation, which is pretty cool.
This is my favorite one.
The Knight of the Royal Art. So this is really almost a kind of a summary of alchemical principles in picture form. You have on the knight's breastplate, you actually have the 4 primary colors associated with the alchemical process. So you start from the black and then move, which is the negredo, to the white or the albedo, to the yellow, which is the citrinitas, and to finally to the red or the rubedo, as originally defined by Heraclitus. And so you can see the homage to the stages of the alchemical process in what the knight is wearing and doing. There's also an homage to astrology and the planets. If we go up above the knight's head, there are 7 stars, alluding to the 7 heavenly bodies that were known at the time.
Also, because of the 7 and an early card, an early plate, also means it's just like part of initiation process. That like it is a holy process that's going to be undertaken. Do you know what the translation says here on his shield, his red shield? I don't have that at the ready.
It's inscribed with the Latin instructions to make one out of 2 waters. And make earth out of water. So basically we have 2 fountains there representing the sun and the moon. And it represents the conjunction of Mercury and sulfur.
There you go.
And it's also interesting because if you look at the tops of each of those fountains, there's an homage to the union of opposites, because on the right fountain it's surmounted by a boy or male, and the left fountain is surmounted by a female. And so you must bring them together and form the rebus in order to step through the alchemical process.
Which is a fascinating theme through all of these, especially alchemy in general, how integrated the masculine and the feminine were, both as opposing opposites that we need to get in touch with the opposite side of that, as well as the hermaphroditic conjunction as well. And
both are necessary for creation.
Yeah,
right?
And it's very progressive for the fact that it was written in the 1500s. So yeah, pretty neat. It's comparing the balance between the 2 opposites.
And what's wild about the whole idea, I mean, it's like when you first sort of dive into the world of philosophy and esoteric philosophy, you start thinking about you in masonry, perhaps, right? We talk about the difference between spirit and material, and then you might go into the Scottish Rite where you learn some other things about the duality and stuff. And then you start seeing these sorts of philosophies that are, I don't know, adjacent-ish, and they start referring to
You're on mute.
the personal, they start referring to the personal identification of like somebody realizing there's 2, but then a process of bringing together to create something else. Which is then completely sort of verified later on, in some of the most intense spiritual manuscripts that exist, talking about the destruction of the idea of a duality. And so with these types of plates, it's like they are almost alluding to the concept, right? Like it's in the power of you through an alchemical process to create something new and singular.
And that's something, Robert, that like as we step through the plates, like that comes up again and again and again to to the end. There's this growing illusion that like the alchemical process happens in everyday life, and it happens while you're just living your life. And so, yeah, really, really, really cool. So let's have a chemical wedding, shall we?
I have a question for Dr. Ruark. He said something. I just want to. It made me quirk a little bit. You said you talked about the progressiveness of this, right? Talking about the when it came to masculine and feminine and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Was it really progressive for its time, or were we just relearning stuff that we had forgotten because all these other institutions got in the way?
It was a large patriarchy back then, for sure. That's all I meant by that. It was out of context for the normal society.
Okay, I'll allow that. Continue.
Thank you. I appreciate your permission.
You're welcome, friend.
Let's talk about the royal couple. So this is the fourth plate in the series. This is also the end of the first set of plates. Okay. And so it's the royal couple that represents the chemical wedding and the conjunction of opposites. And so here we have the lunar sun, or rather the lunar queen on the left, and the solar king on the right. And so the solar king is representing sulfur and the sun, and ultimately, the red stone or the philosopher's stone, dressed in red and gold robes, holding a scepter, and is standing with his feet in a blazing fire. His scroll reads Coagula Masenculium, or masculine coagulation. Whereas the lunar queen on the left, you can see her perched atop a moon. Yep. She's dressed all in white, and her scroll reads Lac Viramium, or virgin's milk.
What I find interesting too about the juxtaposition of the figures, right? She's very calm. She's vertical. She's kind of looking straight in his eyes, while he, being dressed in red, the final part of the alchemical transformation, he looks anxious. He's off-centered. He's standing on the blazing fire, right? You could tell it's this uncomfortableness with change that's happening here. In fact, even the suns above them, you have the moon sun, the dark, the more grayish sun is actually looking at him, while his sun is looking away. And so everything seems to be focused on his uncomfortableness with this transformation that's going on.
Well, it looks like mouthing off
the rock, right?
Go ahead. No, I'm just saying he looks like he's giving her a piece of his mind, kind of thing. I'm just wondering what prompted that. But yeah, he definitely looks a lot less serene. To John's point,
he didn't fold the laundry correctly.
It's creative tension, right? So, and at the bottom of that plate, there's another inscription right down there. Yeah,
it's Via Universalis Particularibus Inclusis, or the particular is derived from the universal way.
Yeah, so it's like an allusion to unity in duality. So it's like it's so wild to look at something created this long ago and to see how, like, if you had the ability to look at this and sort of like be indoctrinated with this sort of free thinking, instead of maybe the way many of us may have been indoctrinated, like I was through Catholicism, right? Nothing wrong with that. It formed a great basis for, my world theology. But, what we lost in something, I think, like moving away from something like what we see here.
John, you're getting ahead of us.
I am. Pushing us forward.
Yeah, it's fine. But I just to say, we've definitely lost some sort of thought process.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So I'm going to call it now. We're not going to get through all 22 of these tonight.
I agree.
So we're
If I
going to
be
go.
quiet, you will.
Part
We're
two.
going to go through the next 7,
Okay.
and then we're going to do the back half on the part 2.
I like it.
I love it.
All right. So we're getting into the second set of plates in the 4-set series, and these next 7 plates are the alchemical process, starting with mining the ore or mine, and it centers really on the origin of the alchemical work and its relationship to the natural world, in which you are extracting the prima materia.
Would you say you're doing the work?
Yes.
What
Well,
would you
you're
say the
you're
prima
starting to
materia-
do the work. You're starting to pull out all the garbage and the rough materials.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
yeah. Before
That
the
makes sense.
transform. Sorry, I was just going to say before you can start transforming stuff, you got to extract it all out, right? So that's the very first part of alchemy.
Yeah. So elementally, this plate really represents the element of earth, shown by, the landscape, but then also the mining of the mountain. And the text accompanying this plate, which is also known as the first parable, provides an alchemical view of geology. So it explains that mountains are formed when the sun's heat causes sulfurous, vaporous steam to be violently expelled from the cold, moist earth. And the best ores are found in mountainous regions because the earth there has been well cooked and tempered by the interaction of the 4 qualities: heat, cold, moisture, and dryness, also representing the 4 elements.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
at
what
the
we got down the
bottom,
bottom?
so we've got floating in the pool, you've got a crescent moon.
And I think the orientation is important too, because it's like the receptacle when it's kind of facing upward, right? Because if that is, it shows up multiple times in these plates this way, but sometimes with the opposite orientation. And so, is it receiving as the passive feminine principle, or is it a foundational thing that people are standing on? We'll talk more about that too.
Yeah, and so at the bottom of the decorative plate, you have a biblical scene between King Ahasuerus, I butchered that, and Queen Esther.
Esther. Right, this was like the coronation of her, right? In the sense that that's when she became the queen. Mm-hmm. Also, the active handing the reins off to the feminine.
Yeah. Is there something? Is there something here to like sort of suggest that what they've mined above, like here is my prima materia feminine cube, and he's like, awesome. Here's my prima materia, masculine cube. What are we gonna do with these things?
So I think this is, as opposed to her coronation, I think this is the biblical reference where she comes at personal risk to the king to intercede on the part of the Jewish people. And so, I believe, handing her something, being emblematical of him receiving her.
Nice.
It's been a long time since I've read the Book of Esther.
Indeed.
So next up, we have the philosophical tree.
Woo.
So tree of life. Tree gives a lot of great shade. Tree features a silver stem that's growing through a golden crown at its base. Again, focusing on alchemy as a royal art. In the accompanying text, this tree brings forth 3 types of fruit: fine pearls, birds' nests, and the purest gold.
Yeah,
So
you can say
above-
it's a go ahead, Jason.
Say above the tree, if you scroll up, you have 14 crows, 7 black and 7 white. So representing the transition from the negredo, or the putrefaction, to the albedo, or the white purification.
Nice.
And then if you see the crow right atop the tree pecking at the fruit, has a white head. And so it's symbolizing the very moment that putrefaction begins to purify.
I like it.
Slight odd tangent. Is there? I saw a goofy article, it was like on some weird, before it's news website or something, conspiratorial thing, talking about this particular plate as referencing the man, in the tree is also potentially gathering fruit representing some sort of knowledge, and placing it in that basket, which they say looks awfully like an acorn or the pineal gland.
Hmm.
I'm just gonna throw it out there. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not putting any weight into it at all. But I thought it was interesting that somebody, from a modern perspective, from all of these sort of esoteric arts that are out there today, somebody saw that. It was
Well, definitely, it's a 7-rung ladder, right?
Yep.
7 being a
So
holy
we have
number.
the 7 planets.
7 planets. He's gathering gold branches and sharing the wisdom down to those below them.
To Aeneas and Silvius.
Interesting. And then we got bath time.
Which is really
What was the point of me going through and censoring the plates?
I know.
If you're just going to show the full titties.
Sorry. It's artistic.
It's alchemical, guy.
alchemical boobies. It's okay.
We're just gonna stay on this frame, or we're gonna move on here?
I mean,
What's going on?
I was just say,
Enhance.
Jason's almost done.
I mean, it takes a moment. So plate 7 is the thanks, Adam B. Plate 7 is the old and young king, and it represents the alchemical stage of dissolution. It's also associated with the element of water, and so it's kind of this transformative process whereby the old is destroyed, represented by the king in the background drowning, for the new state to be reborn, with the young king in the foreground with the dove. If you scroll up, you have the sun, and then to the left of the sun, you have Venus, the morning star.
Yeah, right next to the sun. Daytime. So, new life, new beginnings, new starts. 7 stars around the scepter.
He's wearing 3 crowns of iron, silver, and gold, representing the Tria Prima.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, he has a golden orb with a white dove perched on it.
And he's dressed in gold too.
Yep, he's got the yellow robes, kind of symbolizing that transitional stage of citrinitas that occurs between the purification stage of white and the red, fully transmuted stage.
Nice. Just say when, man.
I'm double checking to see if there's anything we've missed. All right, let's go to the next one. Here we have the Swamp Man and Angel.
Very colorful.
So with this plate, like, the process of transformation is in full swing. You have the naked Swamp Man who is coming out of a pool of putrefaction, and so the torso and legs of the man are black, but you can see one of his arms is white, and then the other arm, as well as his head, is red, symbolizing the various stages of transmutation that are occurring. The angel's handing him a red robe, signaling that his transformation is almost complete.
Nice.
The iconography of the coloring of the Swamp Man, right, is just like to perfection in terms of the symbology is very not lost on how things actually decompose. It's pretty rad.
Yeah, the white arm even looks decomposed.
Yeah, like maybe he was laying on his right side and all the middle's all rotted up, and the left was maybe just like above water, so it's like logged out and like soggy, not quite rotten yet.
Well, and my takeaway, he's still got the Negredo on parts of it too, right? So it's ongoing. It's happening.
Coming out of the Potomac last week.
Oh. All right, next. Let's talk about hermaphrodites.
Yay.
So plate 9 is the hermaphrodite. Is representing the culmination of that union of opposites in the alchemical great work. And so what we started with the royal couple has come to fruition in this two-headed being, representing the perfect union of male and female.
The rebus.
The rebus, yes. And so, interestingly enough, if you scroll up just a little bit, John, if you look at the halos, you can see the left halo is masculine gold, and the right halo is lunar silver, representing the male and the female. And then you have the wings, which are emblematical of the two final stages of the alchemical process, being the rubido and the albedo.
And there's the egg. There's the egg again.
There's the egg, and it's, the egg is also the subject of what is now the 5th parable in the accompanying text. And here it is. It represents a microcosm containing all the necessary elements for creation. The shell is earth, the white is water, the membrane is air, and the yolk is fire. And the center of the yolk is the quintessence, symbolized by the fertilized chick.
And it's delicious.
I knew it was going to come up somewhere.
Also, it's kind of cool because the shield, on the other hand, almost has like a landscape view painted on it. And so here also are the opposites of the microcosm and the macrocosm.
Yeah.
I thought
As
it was
above, so below.
I thought it was reflecting what was on the other side of that.
The Tron disc.
Yeah, also
it's a circular shield or mirror. It's a convex mirror, essentially.
you can also check out the points of the entrance, my man.
There you go.
Oh, hey there.
Well, let's not get all cut up about it.
We're doing the work.
Yeah, do the work. Do the work.
Unlike this guy.
Oh,
All right, we're to plate
Oh my
10.
God.
And again,
You didn't tell me there was going to be blood.
it's like, what is that, Baltimore?
Moved from Potomac to Inner Harbor.
yeah, plate 10 is entitled Dismemberment. And so it represents kind of that stage of alchemical like separation. Based on a vision attributed to Zosimos, where he sees a man dead, his body white like salt, with his limbs cut off and his golden head kind of sundered from his trunk. And so you can see in the in the arms of the sunderer, you can see a sword, but then also the man's golden head.
What?
And no one in the background is paying
I'm
attention.
just
So
gonna
it's,
say, what
it's
is
definitely
everybody
Baltimore.
doing? It's like going to Rome, and you see a dude getting beat up, and everybody else is just like taking pictures of the Colosseum. Like, what is going on there? Nobody cares.
It's all in the interior.
Yeah, it's a metaphor for the transmutation, right? The separation of the four limbs is separating out the elements from the golden head, which is the quintessence. And so when you think about metallurgic alchemy, you need to separate the spirit out from the base metals so that you can essentially make it pure and put it back in.
I think the backgrounds also don't get enough credit as well, right? Because you see this like gory thing and it draws your eyes to it. Sharp red colors, right? Golden head, but then it's a very Venetian background, right? And so where we had a lot of the earthy backgrounds and landscapes in some of the earlier plates, we're starting to balance that with water and some of the other elements as well. I just think that's a nice touch.
Well, I wasn't being glib when I was talking about the dude, but you got one guy like a schmuck, pointing at a boat when all this other stuff is going on. Like, what does that mean? Like, there's much more interesting things going on near the Sunderer than the dingleberry on a boat, on a gondola. Sorry.
Not everyone is fit to go through alchemical transformation.
Oh, well,
I like that. I like that.
Good answer. Good answer.
Up right there, buddy.
I mean, if you look back at the swordsman, the color scheme comes into play again, where you can really see the swordsman as representing that alchemical process between the black, the white, the red, and then the purified gold. And then the last plate for tonight, the seventh and the final plate in the alchemical process set, is entitled Decoction. It's a process of boiling and volatilization to bring about transformation. Imagery is inspired by Ovid's Metamorphoses, specifically the story of the sorceress Medea restoring youth to the aged Aeson by boiling him in a cauldron. In the alchemical parable, an old man who desires to be young again has himself cut into pieces and boiled until he is perfectly cooked, at which point his limbs unite to form a rejuvenated body.
That's a soup I have not had before.
Well, I mean,
in my paper, I originally had put decoction in parentheses soup.
Nice.
I deleted it before I sent it to the college.
Great minds, great minds.
So if you scroll up just a little bit on that image, there's also depiction in the background, as you're talking about. So that's right there on the top of the column. Jupiter and Mercury, right? They're pointing to different paths. So when earlier, John, when you were calling out the sort of in the backgrounds, we just can't forget how much intent there is back there, right? Like the foreground might be the letters, right? But the background shows you the commas, the parentheses, it kind of gives you the whole picture and how to look at it.
Well, and if you if you look off to the right at the base of the column, you have Pygmalion or Vulcan working at an anvil with his assistant.
Nice. One thing too that I've noticed when I was researching this too is every time you see these white birds or white doves, you don't see them airborne yet, right? In the times where he's holding it in his hand or on his head, it implies a certain evocation, that it's coming from within. It's not the Christianized Trinitarian, the dove coming down from above. Invocation. It is an evocation of doing the work and then being transformed. Relax in our new and improved alchemical jacuzzi.
Nice.
Yeah, so these plates are wild. So much symbolism throughout. Yeah, it's just amazing that like we have these as a reference point.
Yep.
So summarize that for us, Jason, based on the first treatise and all that so far. What's the takeaway here for people who are admiring these beautiful pieces of artwork? What else are they supposed to get out of this?
So the takeaway is this isn't a how-to manual for alchemical transformation. Right?
I was just gonna put a bird on my head and start taking a bath, and it should be good to go, right?
It's it's deeply symbolic, deeply allegorical, and ultimately, like, it's meant for the adept to have their own interpretation. I think there are some guiding principles in some of this, but if you cut all your limbs off and boil yourself in water, like, I don't think that's the way to go.
Don't knock it till you've tried it.
Try almost anything once.
That's right.
I think you can only try that once.
Awesome. All right. Before we start to wrap up, Joe, Robert, any final thoughts on the first half?
Yeah.
Splendor Solis.
This was amazing and a great stopping point. So thank you, Jason. I mean, we really just started to dip our toes in the story of alchemical change, right? Where we started with the miner, going through the swamp and the dismembered king, and then showing that work being refined. So this was amazing. So I think what I've learned from you is that the Splendor Solis is really showing us that transformation or alchemy is a active process, right? So there has to be a fall, there has to be patience, and then eventually putting things together. Sometimes the opposites are going together before something new can emerge. So I look forward to the rest of this episode.
Yeah, man, it took an hour to get through half of that. I don't know if everybody on Saturday is going to be interested in the 2-hour presentation.
That's why there's coffee, buddy.
That's right.
I think this was incredible. It's something that is not often talked about. I think you've definitely got something here that has the potential to sort of explode on the you want to say in vogue esoteric scene, perhaps. in the near future. So I think it's awesome. I loved, just the raw chaos in these initial images and the stark, allegories that they are depicting.
Here's my giant Splendor Solis art book that
Oh.
I spent way too much money on.
It was like when I bought a university copy of the Voynich manuscript before it was like anything, and I had to find it through some backwater channel personal printing university edition. It ended up costing me over $100, I'll say, but like it was.
This likewise was
Greater
over
than $100.
I mean, $100 is $100. I mean,
Yeah.
so, yeah, it was, but well worth it. It was really amazing. So, thank you, Jason.
No, this
Awesome.
is fun.
Yep. Thank you, Jason. This is very cool. I think that the big takeaway there is.
Let's wait until we get to the kids and plate 19.
Nice.
Alchemical movements.
Or no, 20. Plate 20.
The big takeaway here for me was, like you said, it's not an instruction manual, but for those who have eyes to see it and those ears to hear it, right, they're going to pick up on the symbolism. That's something that we can relate to as Masons, that symbols, once you know what you're looking for, can have more powerful impact and can cue you back to different parts of your initiation and your own internal processes of how you're applying those symbols in your daily life. And so this, to me, would be no different than tarot decks and oracle cards and all that, just to say, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about where you are on this internal transformation that you're going through right now? And so it's a handy dandy guide for those already doing the work. So
yeah, are you still sawing off your limbs, or are you at the point where you are properly cooked?
As the kids say, you're cooked. Awesome. All right, thanks, Jason. We'll have to do a part 2 because I can't wait to see a lot more of the astrology that comes in the later plates. So until then, I want to thank you all very much for watching and keep searching for more light. Have a good night.
Wow.